The first vehicle used in a safari is the regular kind, the kind that you see on the roads all the time. That vehicle is probably a sedan or a station wagon, basically any vehicle that you would either rent or take as a taxi. And this is a vehicle that you would probably see in a safari in a place like Nairobi National Park, where it's near the city. Now, should you use it as a safari vehicle, especially when you're coming from where you're from, coming here to Kenya or Africa for a safari? My answer is no. First reason is it will get stuck in the mud if it's a rainy season. It will get stuck in rocks if you're going through tough terrain. Safari destinations are by design rough places because they would not be that exciting if it was just beautifully paved roads and so on. And so one of the things you realize is that it gets very muddy when it rains, and vehicles, even the very, very good ones that I'll describe later on, get stuck and sometimes even need assistance. So if you come and use two-wheel drive vehicle on such terrain, you are very likely to get stuck, and so you're asking for trouble. The other reason you should not use this kind of vehicle is because it does not have a cutout top. Now, cutout tops are really useful in a safari because they allow you to stand up and be able to see all of the animals in a bit of a higher position compared to the level, the eye level of a vehicle, of a normal vehicle. Now, this is normally very useful, especially when right after the rainy season, because the vegetation is very tall, and so you may not be able to see some of the shorter animals. And again, when I say short, is let's say at the level of your waist, the grass may grow that tall, and so animals that can be able to hide underneath there or just their heads would be seen are more difficult to see if you're just sitting inside the vehicle compared to standing. And so you'll find that the advantage of the other vehicles that I'm going to describe later is one of the main advantages is that they are four-wheel drive, as I've discussed before, and that they have a cutout top, and so they allow you to stand. The next vehicle you expect to see on a safari, or you probably expect to use in a safari, is a van. Now, these kinds of vans are very ubiquitous in safaris because they are popular. Most of them are Toyota Hiaces or Hi-Ace, depending on how you'd pronounce it. And the one great advantage of these vehicles is that they have a cutout top, and that most of them, especially the ones, actually every vehicle that is designed as a safari vehicle of this kind will have four-wheel drive. And so meaning that if it gets stuck in mud, it will be able to, it will have an easier time pulling itself out compared to other vehicles that may be probably two-wheel drive. Now, this kind of vehicle seats more people, and compared to the next vehicle that I'm going to be discussing, is not as comfortable. It is, it's a good safari vehicle. It is used very popularly, but generally it will be the same experience as driving a normal vehicle in terms of the comfort that you would experience. Now, it has big windows, not as big as the next vehicle I'm going to describe, but it has big windows that allow you to see outside and that you can be able to stand and see the animals easily. One of the disadvantages of using this vehicle is because it has more seating and you can be able to seat more people. If you're in a shared safari, you're going to be sharing this safari with more strangers than you would in a vehicle that you hired yourself, in which case you probably don't have any strangers at all. So this vehicle, the fact that it seats more people means that if you're just alone and you're in a shared safari, you're probably going to be sharing it with quite a number of other people. The third vehicle that you expect to see on a safari is the best of them. It's the Toyota Land Cruiser Tour Van. Now, this vehicle is really, really good for the safari, and there are many reasons for it. First is the standard. It has a cutout top that is expected when you're on safari, so you're able to stand and be able to see the animals all over. The cutout top is large, and so all of the passengers in that vehicle can be able to stand and view the vehicles without them feeling crammed together. Then the other thing is that it also has a cutout top at the front, and so the front passenger can be able to stand and view all of the animals with a 360-degree view. The other great advantage of this is that it seats less people, and so roughly around 6 people. And with 6 people in the vehicle, you probably are able to fill up that tour van yourself with your family, and you will have less strangers if you're doing a solo safari. The other great advantage of this vehicle is because it is a Land Cruiser, it is designed for comfort. And so it's much more comfortable, especially in the rough terrain of a safari. And so you'll have a much easier ride, you'll have a much easier time in your safari when using this type of vehicle. The fact that this vehicle is large and seats fewer people means that you'll have lots of legroom as a passenger, and so you're going to have a much more comfortable ride, especially if you're going to be doing long drives, which you expect to have. If you're coming to Kenya, I've mentioned this before in many of the other videos, and you can check them out in the channel, is that you are going to spend roughly around 6 hours driving from Nairobi to the Masai Mara National Park. And so that kind of long distance drive requires that you have a vehicle that has good legroom, especially if you're tall, and that you're going to be able to drive in comfort, have a comfortable drive all the way without feeling that you have to shuffle all the time. The other advantage of this is that very many of the really good tour operators and the good tour guides use this. And so if you are going to be using this kind of vehicle, because the really good tour guides would probably prefer driving this compared to the other types of vehicles, mainly because higher end tourists choose it, so they'll get higher tips. It's also easier to drive, probably more comfortable. And so you are likely to get a better tour guide. Now, this is not guaranteed, but you're likely to get a better tour guide if you use this kind of vehicle than if you used the other type. Because, well, again, one caveat, the only downside to this vehicle is that it's more expensive than the rest of the vehicles that I've mentioned. And so you're probably going to be paying a bit more for using this kind of vehicle compared to the others. But I would definitely recommend it, that it's totally worth using compared to the other vehicles. Now, you may be tempted to rent a vehicle when you come in Kenya to probably save cost, or that you're going to be in control for you to go on safari with. I would advise that you do not do that. A, because driving yourself is dangerous. It's going to be something that you do not want to do, especially if you're not very familiar with the roads. Kenyans are crazy drivers, and I guess it's the same for many of the countries in Africa. The only place where it's probably advisable to hire a vehicle, because it's very common, is in South Africa, especially when you're going to Kruger National Park, when you're going to be doing your own self-drive safari. The roads are better, and so you don't expect to get stuck. So my advice is, do not try to rent a vehicle. Get one of the vehicles on safari, like use a safari company. I have linked a few in the description below. Check them out.